Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the managing director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. As the title of this video suggests, we're discussing retirement visas and applications. And there's been a lot of consternation. I made a video last week regarding the possible, and it looks like the increasing financial requirements associated with a Thai retirement visa from certain consulates, most notably Thai consulate in Los Angeles, and now apparently the Thai consulate in Sydney, Australia. Looks like these financial requirements are starting to go up, and we've discussed the details of that at length in other videos. But there seems to be, and I've seen this in multiple different pieces of correspondence, folks that are, kind of trying to figure out, trying to differentiate between consular jurisdiction and embassy jurisdiction. I'll get into that in a minute. And we've even had we've even had correspondence where folks have conflated honorary consulates with consulates general. And I made another video contemporaneously with this one where we discussed that issue. But long story short, I just wanted to get into this sort of comparison of embassies and consulates. And sometimes when I make these videos, I've actually discussed these issues. If you go into our archives, just go into the search function on our channel, you can look up comparisons between, or an explanation of how consulates work versus embassies. And, embassies, yes, they're the mission to the country, and the ambassador is stationed at the embassy, and generally speaking, they have seniority and rank sort of internally. But consulates are in visa issuance, that doesn't necessarily correlate with the diplomatic side. I'll get into this here in a minute, but I wanted to go ahead and read this. I did another video where I was talking about part of this quote. I'm going to read the whole thing because it seems like that the poster, this was a comment on one of our videos, is kind of conflating a few things, and I wanted to kind of parse this out because I think this probably causes some confusion for other folks because I've seen similar analysis that's just slightly off the mark. So, quoting directly, Ben, is it possible that the state Thai consulates in the U.S. are all raising their financial requirements only on first application and return to previous financial requirements at all further extensions whilst living in Thailand? ? Done another video on that already. We've gone into that. That actually, there does seem to be some merit to that notion. But moving forward, quoting directly, this also seems to be the case in Australian state-level Thai consulates, but not at the federal-level Thai embassy. Since every country has only one embassy with Thai jurisdiction, any application for an OA retirement visa remains as previous. Well, you're presuming something there. I don't think it's necessarily the case. But moving forward, I'll get into that in a minute. Quoting further, it's only Thai consulates with local jurisdictions that have raised application financial requirements from that country only and an initial application only. Hope that makes sense. So what I think is being said here is the embassy has jurisdiction over the whole country, whereas the consulate only has local jurisdiction over their own locality. And that there's somehow, okay, if you don't like, in a sense, it's like forum shopping. If you don't like what you hear from the consulate, you can go to the embassy. Or at the same time, it may kind of explain this disparity where they're kind of leaving this kind of leeway where you have, it's seemingly two sets of financial requirements for the same type of visa. And, but the problem is in Australia, and this analysis, I've seen it conflated in the US as well, I think it's kind of, it's actually, in my opinion, extrapolating notions of federalism into an analysis of the way consulates and embassies work. And the long story short is consulates have consular jurisdiction. That's it. That if you live in that consular jurisdiction, that's who you have to deal with for visa purposes. For example, in the United States, with respect to the Western United States, if you're under the Los Angeles consulate's jurisdiction for visa adjudication, there is no alternative. I guess you could move to another part of the United States and try to apply through either a different consulate or the embassy. But for example, in the US, the DC embassy, it has a consular jurisdiction, and that consulate issues visas only to states within that jurisdiction. In fact, we'll go ahead and throw up the map there where you can see that. But the long story short is, the Western United States, if LA has requirements, that's the requirements. Now, Yeah, there may be a little wiggle room, and look, I deal with immigration law, especially consular practice, not only in a Thai context but a U.S. context. This is not cut and dried stuff. It's not like, administrative law where you're dealing with, in one country and you're dealing with all, the same set of laws, for example, in the United States. This is nuanced thinking, and yeah, there may be circumstances where if you don't like the requirements in one consular jurisdiction and there is some discrepancy between different consular jurisdictions, yeah, you might be able to figure out some way of sort of squaring the circle, if you will, and getting to your objective. But I would definitely, the thing to take away from this video, I would not presume a sort of federalist kind of system within, the embassy consulate structure. I would also not presume that just because the consulate says something, you can sort of override them. That's not really going to be practically how it works. So if you're dealing with a consulate and you're in that jurisdiction, they're probably going to be, the only choice you have with respect to ultimately processing out your visa application.